Okay. So hi guys, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System. This is the first hangout I'm doing, or live stream I'm doing on my words about you and what you do at your channel.
I'm sorry, you cut out just there.
Yeah, I hope my connection is well. I just said, you know, I just introduced you and asked if you can just say a little bit what you and your friends are doing on your channel, and yeah, I also said that I have the links below.
Yeah, so I'm from MBTV. We do a lot of typology work, you know, like Wenzes. We focus on really kind of wanting to share information and really give advice and direction and I guess a different perspective in our videos. We really want to bring clarity to individuals who are just either getting into the typology community or, you know, or just in life in general. You know, we really try to encompass like a lot of different areas on our channel. So it's all personal growth driven. And that's kind of how me and Wenzes kind of connected, and you know that's where we're gonna go.
Yeah, so I really like your channel a lot. I think there's a lot of things to learn, and I appreciate a lot of the work, and it's very diverse. So guys, go check it out, and I think we can all learn. Yeah, so what Daniel hasn't really mentioned, now he's an ENFJ. So everyone who's been watching my videos knows that I'm obsessed with ENFJs, mostly. You just froze
obsessed.
there.
Obsessed.
Okay. You just froze in this pose. It was like I just stuck there for like a minute. No, of course, first I like ENFJs a lot, but I also think there's a lot to learn from ENFJs. So that's why I really like talking to ENFJs, which I haven't had much chance to besides the people I know in real life, and to really find out how we can use each other's knowledge to grow. And this is what we kind of like we'll start off with today. If you, yeah, a couple of people are watching, 20 viewers by now. So if you have questions, you can just post them, and then later on we will get back to them. So first off, what I like to talk about is triggers that we have as types towards each other. So for example, and not triggers as in this makes you mad or this pisses you off, but more like you have an INFJ around you and you realize a certain quality that makes you feel inadequate in a way and makes you want to grow. I'll make an example, like what I have with ENFJs is a lot of, or what I used to have mainly was this feeling of I'm not doing enough for the people around me, for society. I'm not being like an equivalent member of society, or I'm not really helping everybody around me have a better life and just contribute. And I've had that because I had ENFJs around me who, in my opinion, from my point of view, really personified that. And that made me be aware that I personally really want this aspect in my life as well. And the minute—
To help others. To help others.
Yeah. Kind of like I felt like there's something I was hoarding in a way. Like I had this knowledge or I had something to give and I wasn't giving it.
Yeah, because like, you know, your creative function is feeling, so it's not really about helping others. It's about just having that information. And you know, when you're around somebody who really exhibits that you know, that FE, you're like, wow, like I wish I could just be in that moment, right? But I would have to give credit to INFJs, because INFJs are really adamant about their values and their, you know, and how they see things, right? So time and time again, I've seen INFJs when they see something that totally goes against, you know, their own values or for the good of somebody, they really stand up. They become like Superman almost, you know, and they can really fight for what they think is right.
Yeah, but it's most like in the situation. It's
Yeah,
more like,
yeah, yeah,
but for me, it was really something I looked up to, and I felt there's really something I was kind of hoarding for like better times or when like to put out, and I didn't really want to, because it's kind of like showing your cards when you're being more FE. From my point of view, in a way, it also shows more about who you are. You like kind of like express
yeah.
more of yourself, so you also are more able to be judged and so on. So there was like a fear in me. But once I understood I wanted that more, I was also more expressive and just like, it wasn't even just about helping people. It was just being more present and being more giving of just who I am and what I can bring and so on. And that's one of those things that and really, really fighting for what you think is right, and like having like really strong opinions and just living with them, not just saying them from time to time, but really living them. And that's, I think, what ENFJs do a lot, and that's what I have learned and what has triggered me a lot. And
And
also, yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
oh no, and like part of it is like vulnerability too, and like and what that really means. Like a lot of people, like when you think about ENFJs, when they extroverted feel right, or like when any type has a dominant function, like I would say that like even for you, like your introvert intuition, it's kind of how you're vulnerable, right? It's kind of like your soft spot, you know, is like talking to people about like thoughts and ideas and whatever, you know, just as ENFJs, it's for extroverted feeling. It's how they, you know, it's their vulnerability. It's how they show people who they are. And so it's just another way of, I guess, connecting with people, right? And
It is.
you'd want to use intuition to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's much more honest. You know, as I said, when I connected through FE before, or only through FE, it was more of, I was staying polite. I was watching others' boundaries. I was like respecting them. But now it's more like I use, just as you said, like I didn't even see it that way that much before, that I use my intuition and I express that through FE. So there's much more honesty and vulnerability, as you said, in it. And what I also had, like from an ENFJ point of view, is this force. You know, we talked like in the last video that you said that you feel INFJs are in a lot of ways like they know a lot, but just they don't go anywhere, or they're like really just slow, like a turtle kind of way.
Yeah.
There's not this force like I want to go and achieve that. And having an ENFJ around me that is like that just make me be uncomfortable. And that's what I meant with triggered. It made me feel uncomfortable if I was not giving it all I got. Like I knew, like even if I give all I can give, it's not as much as maybe an ENFJ, and that's why I didn't want to show it at all. But now I understand that like I need to do all I can do in order to feel good about the things I do. And
Yeah,
so
I mean that really
yeah,
matters. Like,
I
you want to be the
really I really appreciate having ENFJs in my life that show me those things.
yeah, like you want to always be the best version of who you are, and realize that, you know, if you're a turtle and like let's just say, you know, you want to climb some kind of success and you feel like going slow, you have to realize that, you know, maybe you need that skateboard so you can go a little faster. Jump on a skateboard as a turtle and just kind of fly by. You know, you need to give yourself the tools and resources you need, and the people around you who have those skills. And
Exactly.
I think that's what really matters.
Yeah.
You know, because once you realize your strengths and weaknesses in anything, in dating, in business, with people, you know, once you know your strengths and weaknesses, it becomes so much easier to figure out what you need to do to move forward, right? Bring it into your consciousness and then just move forward, right? A lot of people get stuck on, wow, like I just suck at this, or this person's so great at that. Just, you know, learn from people, you know, surround yourself with people who are good at those things. Like for you, it would be ESTPs and, you know, ENFJs, maybe, you know, for feeling, ESTPs for doing, you know.
But even ENFJ is like like I've spent a lot of time with ESTPs, and of course there's more this doing thing in it, but
Yeah.
I think because ENFJs are closer to me, it's more easy for me to kind of like become more like that. Like it's easier, of course, for me to become more ENFJ than ESTP in a way. For ESTP, it's like too much. It's like parallel to me, but I can't really I can't really go in that place and be an ESTP. I can more of like try to be an ENFJ in a way. So
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to take a look at like what areas about you that you're trying to work on, right? And this situation, it's about doing, right? So if you're trying to do more, you have to see how that would connect to your NI, right? That's how you're going to be able to do more. It's through the help of what you love to do,
exactly.
which is think, right? And so and another part of it is valuing actually doing something. The reason why you probably are, or whatever, or for the example, if you're slow moving or you have trouble relating to FE, it's because you're not valuing it. That's always the case with my clients or random people I meet or friends. It's always about, even myself, it's like, I take, introverted thinking. Even somebody mentioned in the comments, introverted sensing, they want to talk about ENFJs and their ignoring function as introverted sensing. Our shadow functions, we just didn't put a value growing up on these functions or these ways of thinking. And so they become shadow functions, right? And what we do value is what we use for survival, right? Which is our first four functions. So it's really about valuing. It's about your mindset and what you value. Because if you valued SE, you would be in a totally different place right now.
Yeah. So what are you saying? It's just like to use that, if there's like little SE, just to use that in order to further those things that we care about, like use it as a means to an end, and then there's more, you want to put more power into it.
Yeah, like it's a matter of plugging in the connectors to like why you would want to value something, right? It's like, well, for you, it's like, all right, if I want to connect with people, it's not going to be through just wanting to help them. That's not going to be the true authentic way. It's going to be through kind of like sharing, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to convert it in a way that makes more sense to you. Like Trey, the guy I work with, the one that you met, he had that kind of weirdness of like where he doesn't really want to help people, but he just wants to get to know them and understand, and then that's it, and then break off, right?
Yes, an INFJ, just to to say to the viewers, he's Trey, that Daniel was talking about, is also an INFJ. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's gonna slow, and like he's still pretty young, but he's gonna grow up and realize the way that he will truly connect with people is through sharing ideas and his thoughts, and everything that encompasses NI.
That's so true, because as I said, like I wanted to help in a way, but I wanted to help through my personal strength, to what I can give more. It wasn't like just I want to help and go out and do something that everybody could do in a way. It was like sharing my insights and using those things I have learned to better life. So it's exactly like you put it. And is that how you also like view when you see like INFJs, that do you see that there's this urge to share and they don't really know it? Like,
I think so, because when I see INFJs, there's always like the observer. Like you always know that you're being observed, right? You always know that, like even right now I can sense the INFJs in this call, like and the ones watching. They're just observing, and they will, they may want to share, but they always want to just absorb, kind of like INTJs. But I think I'm not necessarily sure if INFJs do want to share, because they are perception based pretty much, so like a social instinct, from like the Enneagram, like a social preference, right, to communicate. I don't believe it would be a necessity for INFJ specifically to want to share, unless it was somebody like a personal friend or like a one-on-one, like now, something meaningful, right? It would have to mean something. It's all about meaning and right purpose. And the conversation meaning having some significance,
See, what I believe is just that we all need that balance. I think the problem is that we all tend to go, especially in our first function, to go to an extreme and just see how far we can take it. And it takes us not to a good place if we don't balance it out. And that's why I think where it comes in. And, for an INFJ like me, it was just to a point where I said, like, I couldn't go any further. I just got completely out of this, like, reality. I wasn't really dealing with everyday life on a good basis. And I knew if I wanted to grow, I have to do it in the other direction, which meant to, like, just, like, make my world bigger by sharing what I think and what my values are. So I have a bigger circle. I have more energy around me through that. And for ENFJs, because I think this is also very interesting and we should discuss it like vice versa. If the ENFJs I have encountered that have gotten on a self-destructive way, it has also been too much of FE, too much reactiveness, like being very fast to react on others' reaction, caring too much what other people think, and just in being really tense in a way. And for me, because I see in INFJs this lack of SI. And I think, for example, this is something INFJs can tell in ENFJs that ENFJs are not aware of, the way that ENFJs are aware that INFJs lack TE, which I'm completely oblivious to. And what I mean is, like, this lack of SI is just that there's always this urge, I have to go, I have to do something. And I have found that if you manage, like you, in my opinion, come up very balanced, that there's always this incorporating intuition more into your everyday life and just using that and having like a path where you're going and you're not like reacting so much. And that helps you also to calm down and not have this inner turmoil that's going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from underdeveloped valuing of functions, or less of working on the self, where you would see a lot of what you're talking about with ENFJs. You'd see that a lot with types that maybe don't develop their TI, right? With the whole reacting thing, with the whole being on, really being on the edge, right? Being on the edge really sucks. And like, it really, I think it comes down to, your security at that point. Are you finding security in your environment, with yourself in all different aspects, feeling wise, thinking wise. I was going to say before, you really, I think the checkpoint that INFJs would get to is when they put the emphasis to really want to connect to people through their thoughts. And that's what you just brought up before. You said it came to a point where you wanted to expand, right?
Yeah.
And, I came to a place a couple of years ago where I wanted to go in, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. So I think there's this, once you understand that you also need that other part, it really helps you to get to like a new place mentally, and also then your reality changes. And what I found very interesting is what you said now, that you said an underdeveloped TI, like in order for you to go more inside and use your NI, you also had to like develop your TI, or not only develop it, to like go into it, like really like attack it pretty much, just use it and really want to build it. And for me, it was the same thing with SE. It was just like from one day to the other, I decided I'm gonna be more forceful in a way. I'm gonna fight for my rights pretty much. Like, I'm gonna fight for my freedom. I'm gonna fight for my destiny, for everything I wanna do. And it was such a hard clash to what I was doing before, because I was completely neglecting it. Like, every chance I got, I was having all those arguments, or not arguments, but I've had convinced myself that it's bad to have SE within me. So every time I could be more forceful, I could fight back, I could fight for anything, I always find an excuse not to. And then once I decided I have to be more you know, I have to grow in that direction to be more balanced. That's when I decided, okay, I need to change, and I do need to be more SE wise. And I think with ENFJs, it's the same thing, because the person even that I witnessed that whole change, as you said, you had a couple of years. It's not like you don't have TI. I mean, you do have, you value TI, like TI is actually developed. We just never want to use it, or like ENFJs don't want to use it. And I think it is with me. I mean, people around me, they wouldn't say now anymore that I'm weak, or I cannot stand up for myself. So I always had this power in me, and I think most INFJs have that, as well as ENFJs have this possibility to use their TI all the time. It's just yeah, we're kind of like scared to use it. What do you think is the main reason?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's really to lack, because it's the idea like that we're focusing on other things, right? Like right now, if we were to have a particular conversation, let's just say about arguing a theory, right? It really depends on the context in which you are using, you know, functions, because when you start going after, like in the MBTI system, once you start trying to use functions past like your tertiary function, things get more and more specialized, right? Especially when you hit shadow functions. Your shadow functions you just can't use as broadly as you could use your NI, or for me, my FE. You know, you'd be using them more in a specialized way. Even TI for me and SE for you, they would be in specific ways, and you'd have to understand what those specific ways, which ways that would be for you.
Yeah.
And a good example is, if I could think on the top of my head, I would really only use TI when I really want to, when I'm creating something, when I'm trying to create an understanding of something I've seen, right? And that would be really difficult, because the idea is that even when I'm thinking about something and I'm trying to intuit an idea, the goal isn't even to formulate it, to build on it. It's to like kind of just grow and grow more and more observations until like it becomes like I know a lot about it, right? So like right now, I'll give you an example. Like, I'm not really concerned right now. I'm like kind of just grow and grow more and more observations until like it becomes like I know a lot about it, right? So like right now, I'll give you an example. You good?
You have to. I'm sorry. I had this thing was breaking off. Can you? Okay, just say you have like if you want to give me.
So my point was, because people were naturally focused on the first three, right? So if me and you are having a conversation, I'm not really concerned with my actual thoughts on conversation and really constructing an understanding, but I'm just more concerned about viewing and observing intuitively and emotionally what's going on, right? And in the environment, right? Those are my two first priorities, and then maybe later on, I'll get an understanding of what this conversation meant, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, you can say that people who have FI inferior, it takes them way longer to understand how they feel about something. You have to come back to them and actually ask them later on, like maybe months or a couple months down the line, like, oh yeah, so did you feel any do you understand how you felt about the situation, right? So TI or anything in the inferior slot always takes longer to synthesize, right?
Yeah.
The synthesis is harder. So that's why you see a lot of INFJs that you may know, or you may know others. It's out of nowhere, they'll just make a move, right? And it'll be very swift, right? Because a lot builds up because they're not really in action,
Yeah.
right? Not just emotionally, but like, let's just say, for example, you needed to move, and then like after like 8 months of really hating your environment, you're like, I'm moving. And in 1 week, you find a place, you move, and then everything's set. Right.
That's so true. Yeah.
And then everyone's like, what? You moved? It's like, yeah, I moved. All right, I'm done. you know?
Yeah, I always have this reputation that I go like to parties and like I enjoy myself. I have this like great time for like half an hour, and then I'm just okay, I'm gone. And then I leave like right away because it takes a while for me to realize this is too much energy like around me and I need to go. Like it's always like this, yeah, it's like building up. And what I've also found, like the difference when you have like it in a third function or in the fourth function or like higher, it's just you also use that function more excessively without like really it having a purpose. For example, like
Yeah.
ENFJ, pretty sure, just like a very simple example, watch much more sports, just like as a rule of thumb, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And it's of course watching sports, it's like an entertainment, it's not something that really there's no like purpose in it, you know. It's not like you watch like, you know, when I use SE, I use it because I consciously think about it, I consciously decide I'm going to use it in that connection to get that result that I want. And the higher this function is up on your stack, the more naturally you do those things without it actually having like like that you really want to do something with it. I think that's one of the reasons why ENFJs have like in general a broader social circle around them, because they you know, they use and make connections much more you know, naturally without thinking about it. Like my mom is an ESFJ, and like when I'm at her house on Sundays, the phone is always ringing. Like she has so many friends and they're really close friendships. Like it's so much, like it's really nice to watch, but I can see that's something I wouldn't even have the energy to, like, even although it's my second function, like I still have to put some kind of intention into it. It's not like something that happens naturally. And I think that's very interesting to see how it goes down and down and down. And that's why it's so good that you said it's specialized, because if you're using that for a specific task and you have to decide, you know, the lower it is, the more you have to decide what are you going to use that on, because you can't use it in your everyday life.
Yeah, because it gets way too draining.
Yeah, exactly.
Draining. Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the interesting things, that you kind of like decide your path by narrowing it down, you know? Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions in the chat.
Yeah, hold on. Before you ask the questions, am I like, I don't see any questions in this Hangout. Like, do you see the same?
Oh, when you go to the live the control room.
Okay, hold on.
If you go to the control room, you'll be able to see like a open chat window.
Yeah, I see like one on the right side, but it's like empty.
That's just for me and you.
Okay. So
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm learning. So okay, so I go into the control room, and then okay.
Do you see that?
Yeah,
and then there should be like somewhere on the right going down to his chat window.
I have the control room. Then I see you. I see me. Yeah, you can ask the questions. I'm just gonna look at it in the meantime.
Yeah. So what somebody by the username of Yo said, did finding out your personality type change something in you? If yes, what? Thank you. You want to start off with that one?
No, I would actually like yeah, I can start off. I just wanted to find
I'll start off.
Control room, that's why, but I'm listening.
Yeah, I'll start off then.
Okay.
So when I discovered personality theories, it, you know, knowing my type was really cool in the sense of, I guess, mapping. You know, I wanted, you know, I'm really personal growth driven. So like, you know, discovering MBTI and the types and, you know, learning about that there was a system already out there that could help me understand people better, you know, and for professional and personal reasons, it was like a really great thing. Did it change me? I would say it made me more self-aware of the little things that I do, and the things that I, you know, my strengths and weaknesses, pretty much who I am. So it really allowed me to kind of engage with my personal self, like with a compass. So I would say that my awareness of self has kind of risen to some extent, um, because I guess you could say, I guess you could say because of typology, because when you get a certain awareness for who you are, you're able to kind of um, carry out your life differently. Um, so it has changed my life a little bit. I'm here obviously because of MBTI and typology. I wouldn't be here talking to Wenzes without MBTI, and I wouldn't be a part of the MBTV team without discovering all this stuff to begin with. So I gotta thank Carl Jung for that one. So
I mean, wouldn't you like say your life is better because of it?
yeah, as a tool, it has definitely helped me out. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can't find the chat. I'll know it like afterwards. So if you could just like later on just keep an eye on it and share the questions, that would be great. But like from my point of view, when I discovered MBTI, it was also very helpful because I was looking around for answers. Like I didn't understand myself. I didn't know. I didn't like at that point. I wasn't personal growth driven. I like, of course, I always wanted to be better and stuff, but more for me, it was like a look out for help and just find something. And then I found like this community, and what personally I disliked about the INFJ community at that point, that in a lot of forums and a lot of groups and stuff, there was a lot of self-pity going on. And that was the last thing I needed at that point, because I was doing the same thing, or I had been doing that and feeling sorry for myself for so many years. And now I said, no, I need to change something and go into the other direction. And I think there's more and more things like that going on in the INFJ community. And so I'm also glad that you as well as, I mean, we know each other also for that. Like, I think the community and everything, it's also growing, and that we can be a part of it. And so, yeah, for me, it has changed everything. It's changed everything, the way I see my life. And as I said, it's a tool, because also when you look like at psychologists and they talk about like narcissism and codependency and all, those are all models of reality. And so, of course, you can't put people in boxes, but to have like a model that helps you to kind of make sense and helps you to use your TI, I think it's very beneficial. And I think it's a great way to learn about yourself and grow at the same time.
No, that's very true, and like it's all in the benefit for us. It's just to really try and understand us and others, in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue that it would bring more clarity or just a different perception to the table. And that's what it's really there for. Here's some data. You can do what you want with it. You know what I mean? And that's it.
Yeah.
Like most things. Somebody asked, how do you guys keep motivating yourselves, especially when you lack motivation and purpose? I don't lack motivation and purpose. I don't know about you, Wenzes, but I'm pretty on fire all the time. I'm very motivated. I guess that's just the type 3 in me, but
Yeah.
Oh wait, we have. I don't know if you wanted to answer that, but I mean,
I'll answer it. I just I pressed something again that it's only showing you. Hold on, or is it showing me right now? No, it's showing you, right?
No. Unclick it. Unclick me. If I have do I have a white frame around me right now?
Now you can see me, right? You're presenting to everyone. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. Well, I can always see you, Wenzes.
Okay.
But in my little square, there you go. That's good.
Okay. So okay, it's all good now. So I think I personally think I imagine the person asking is rather an INFJ than an ENFJ, because I do lack motivation. I think that's also just like difference between INFJs and ENFJs. I think ENFJs are very driven, very motivated. And if you look at dichotomies and with socionics, it also shows that there's like, for me, when I first started like getting to know an ENFJ back then and I wasn't developed, there was like this this force that is like keeping or like pushing ENFJs, or like your it's like a, yeah, it's like a force that like keeps you up. It's like always going in one direction, and I was just like flowing there, looking around, not going anywhere. That's how it felt for me. So I really think we should also get more into like uh, how you're like, why you're being motivated and so on. Although you're all the time on fire, I think maybe when we, if we talk about it, we can kind of figure out something that we can use as a help to us. But for me,
Yeah.
how I keep myself motivated is really putting a lot of effort in doing more and more tasks. It's like getting a momentum. Like first, as I also said, in the longest time, I listened to a lot of motivating music, just like more upbeat stuff. You know, not all this um, this music that's like mellow and nice to listen to and so on, but really stuff that wakes you up. And then I started doing more and more things in my everyday life. I started to do a job that was more demanding when it came to efficiency, when it came to time management and so on. And all those things helped me to become more driven to also do those things I wanted to do for myself. So for me, it was more like, it's still a battle, but there's always this
Yeah.
having things in my life that help me. It's also, if you have people around you who are like this, if you have people around you who are more motivated and who do more things, it helps you to get that way as well.
I think it's important to realize, for being an INFJ, I think it's important to realize not to get lost in the daily duties and tasks of the day, and to always realize what your goals and your vision is, right? For an INFJ, vision is everything, right? What you want to ultimately, the lifestyle you eventually want to like realistically live, like ideally. And like for example, for me, I write down like in lists, like with checkpoints in my life, like what I want to accomplish. When I'm done accomplishing something on my list, I replace it with something even better, right? So
Yeah.
like right now on my wall, I have one list for all the things that I need to, or the checkpoint, the lifestyle I want to live. I have all the things that I want to do within that lifestyle, right? And that's a checkpoint, right? So I haven't gotten to that checkpoint yet. And then I have another page on my wall. This is like right above my bed, like another page for all the things I have to do with MBTV, for me, anything that I need to do to get to that lifestyle, right? So it's really about seeing the tangibility in what you want to aspire to, right? It's really easy to have a dream and then have it there, but it can become real if you just start making the steps to do that. And if you do something every day to move towards that lifestyle, then you're almost there, right? Like for example, like when I think last year I was just, I was in I would say a couple years ago, I moved back with my mom, just for example. And then I was tired of that. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't the part of the lifestyle I want to live. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the city, and that's where I want to be. That's where I see myself. So I did it. And then out of nowhere, I felt like so much was lifted off me because I was starting to put myself where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to live. And so I think INFJs really need to put a value on what you really want. What you like, write down a list of like the lifestyle. And I do this with my clients too. Any client that I have is not happy, right? The first thing that I do is I do all these, like the needs assessment, and I do all these assessments of where they are, like, are they motivated, are they like depressed, or what they want to do, what their goals are, what their mission is. But I also say, like, all right, I want you to write, I guess, 10 to 12 things that encompass the lifestyle you want to live, right? Where are you? Who's in your life? Um, you know, where are you financially? Where are you with your happiness? What do you physically want in your life? Right? Just these things, right? That would matter. And I want my clients and anybody that I run into to get this idea around that you need to start visualizing what it looks like that you're trying to obtain. Because if you don't visualize it, and you don't make it like a like a mission, you don't have it like as a solid thing to get to, then it's going to be that much harder to get to. It's like it's almost like common sense. Like how can you live a lifestyle you don't even know that has been formulated, right? That makes sense, right? How can you live an ideal lifestyle without formulating what you want? And so, you got to start like figuring out what you actually want from life, and then remember that there's never such a thing as an end point. There's always going to be more checkpoints. There's always going to be more, but the idea is, to live the experience of doing those things, and enjoying yourself, and valuing yourself first, and giving yourself, you know, not the motivation to just wanting to do it, because it really has to do with your happiness and fulfillment. You know, like you could probably safely say that where you are now, you're probably really happy, but there's things that you probably want changed, and so you need to establish what those things are and start building a strategy to execute things every day in your life to build to that next checkpoint. You know.
Yeah, I think for a lot of INFJs, the problem is that we do not feel what we want. There's not like strong preference of I feel better if I have that and I feel worse if I have that. Like I think for us it's a lot about getting more emotions in our life so we actually feel what we want. There's always this saying of INFJs are always looking for meaning. Well, the reason why they're looking for meaning is because they don't have it or they don't feel it.
Well, you know what? That's super easy, right? You take a list of things that you want in a lifestyle.
Yeah, that's the
right.
Before you start that,
yeah.
How, like, what can we do? Like, I'm also going on that way. I've done a lot of stuff, but for like most INFJs listening, how do you even write down what you want? Like that you said, oh, I imagine a lifestyle like this, like this. So you also have the emotions attached to, oh, I'm gonna feel so great if I have this in my life.
So
and INFJs, I think, in a lot of ways, lack that step already. That step to really know this is something that would make me feel good. And so how to like probably is even things that you might from time to time have to tell yourself to like lower it down, not to get like so obsessed over things. If you want something so much, like all those things I could imagine as an ENFJ, you sometimes feel you have to tone down. We have to tone up. And
not even the case. You got to tune up. You got to get obsessed with what you want, or else it's not going to happen, right?
Exactly,
like I'm obsessed with helping people and coaching, and so that's all I do. If I'm not coaching, I'm helping people for free, and if I'm not doing that, then I'm learning. If I'm not learning, I'm coaching. You know, like you got to make what you love an obsession. But to answer your question of how INFJs can connect to their feelings with their with the lifestyle they want to live, with whatever they want to do. In Dario Nardi's book on neuroscience and personality, he talks about how ENFJs and INFJs have it's really about NI users, right? They have you can if you ask one of these types to visualize, like if I asked you right now, Wenzes, like, for me, can you visualize for me how, your life right now, 10 years from now, tell me what you're doing. Tell me, like, what does it look like? Like, what are you doing? Where are you living? What does it look like? What's the weather like? You would probably be able to close your eyes for like a good 30 seconds and start be able to tell me what that would look like. Right. So I think the idea is that INFJs really need to sit and meditate and visualize, kind of like this in the future moment, right? Like they have to visualize the future of how they're living to understand what it is that you or any INFJ would want.
That's so true, because I don't like the fact if you would have asked me now and I would have to like sit down and close my eyes, I do not know. Like, it's not even that I don't know. I know, but I'm kind of like scared to visualize it. I'm scared to like really point it down, because the moment I decide this is how I want it to look, there are all those other options I have to say goodbye to. And I think that's what a lot of INFJs are scared of, but this is also what we have to do. mainly why we don't do it. Like, I think like I know, yeah, in 10 years I want to like live and do like have this as like my main business and start like coaching and do all that stuff and
Yeah.
then start working. But
Because
it's so you know, it's not like concrete. Like there's just like some
yeah,
ideas that I can really sit down and visualize, and I think that
yeah,
is what.
the biggest issue with perceivers in general, because INFJs are actually perceivers, first, is this idea of not being concrete, not really wanting to stick to just one thing, to have options open. But that's something that I learned, is that you have to focus on one thing and give it your all, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Learn from it, and then move on to the next thing. So if there's something you think you want, you just have to go for it. And like obviously, we're talking in terms of lifestyle and not purpose, then it's a certain lifestyle. So that's a lot of things. And so that's totally interchangeable, obviously. You can add things in and out of your life if you want. But if it's purpose, you really have to be hard set in a certain area and then pursue that area. Whereas it's really easy to say, oh, cool, like, I can visualize myself living in Madrid, and I'm going to be married, and I'm going to have a certain amount of money, and I'll be doing this with my life, and I'll probably, I want to take up fencing and all these different things, right? And so those are way easier to do and to want and to start doing than it is to say, oh, well, I want to get into science and I want to be a scientist. That takes years. And so how do you trust yourself with that decision to go down the route of a career, right? It's a really big change.
Yeah.
Just as much as it is moving to Madrid or anywhere, right? You gotta figure out how much you actually want these things, right? And so and it's super easy, right? It's let's just say in your lifestyle you want to move to Germany. All right, from a 1 to a 10, how much do I feel like I want to move to Germany? How happy do you think that would make me from a 1 to a 10? Probably like an 8. Okay, so that's probably something that I should do, right? Should I get a pet? And my ideal lifestyle is having a pet influence me. And right, in all these things in your life, you have to look at if they influence you for the better, right? So it's like for me, like this year, I actually want a pet. So I would say yes, 10 out of 10, I want a cat. That's actually one of my things. I want a cat and a dog. That's
That's
one of my things. So I know I'm going to get these things not by associating with the 1 to 10, but realizing how it would influence me for the better, right? Because you have to remember anything, even, and it's going to be really logical and cold to sound like this, but it's all about investing in yourself, right? Just for the sake of if it's going to benefit you or not. So getting a cat and a dog, it's going to influence me in a profound way emotionally, right? Which is going to be better for me long term. So, yeah, cat and dogs have feelings, and they themselves are living creatures, but they're realistically going to affect me in a good way. Moving to somewhere that I would rather live in, having my own environment is going to be a better thing, and pursuing coaching is going to make me, realistically feel better. And so you have to add up all these things. You have to choose different things in your life that you think will benefit you. You have to rate them from a 1 to a 10. Will this make me happy? Do I think this is gonna give me like long-term results? Do I feel connected to this? From a 1 to a 10, can I feel connected to this kind of lifestyle decision? Let's just say you want to be single for this lifestyle, not with somebody. Is being single will being single contribute to my happiness in this lifestyle long term? Will I grow from that experience? And you have to ask yourself, pretty much, will you grow from these areas? You know what I mean? That's how you'll really come to that conclusion.
no, but I can tell that's something you actually do regularly, right? You sit down and you think about those things, and you kind of like come up with these ideas, and that's something I like personally don't do on a regular basis naturally. Like the other things I do, like all those ideas from my videos and stuff, they just come to me. Like I don't even think about it. I think that's similar to how you have your plan, like where you're gonna go, how you're gonna do things. And so a while back we talked about on my channel that a lot of us have problems with normal meditation, with this just calming down and sitting down and like really getting into the state. And I think it's because most of us are already in such a low, low state, in a way of we're calm and so on. But I think doing that, and this is what I'm definitely taking out of this conversation, and especially the last part now, I'm gonna look up more about visualization, and really like sitting down and doing those things and really pinpointing it, because every time you talk about it, I can sense myself. It makes me uncomfortable, because those are things I do not want to do. I do not want to think about, is my lifestyle going to be better if I'm single or I'm not single, because that would mean that I would have to think about and do things that will get me there. And the fact that I have to decide, am I going to have a life in Madrid, which actually I was actually really thinking about moving to Barcelona and so on. And I have those ideas and they're there, but I haven't really pinpointed them down. And there are a lot of things I personally.
You have to remember, NE is your fifth function, if I remember, right?
NE?
Or it's somewhere in the shadows. I think it's your fifth function.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know exactly if it's the fifth or the sixth, but yeah, it's
so
more, it's the exploring function.
You're very, and like, you have to look at NE not as just, picking up patterns and thinking about new opportunities, but that is like your catalyst. If you can tap into your NE, once you start working on your SE, once you start doing things, you'll maybe realize, maybe you've had moments like these where you've done something, and then you had a burst of like, whoa, I could do so many other things now, right?
Yeah.
And then you can explore those things because you feel more inclined to do them. So like, you have to remember that when you tap into actually start doing things, it'll actually start to get you into so like, once your SE starts exploding, you'll start to use your NE more.
Yeah, it's because you're more extroverted altogether, so your extroverted functions you use more altogether. Yeah.
So it's important to realize that, like, the more you start doing, the more opportunities you'll want to take advantage of. But you have to remember too, none of this can happen if it doesn't align with your vision.
Yeah.
You gotta, like, for an INFJ, if you're watching this here for an INFJ, you gotta look at on your whiteboard, that everybody should own a whiteboard, and on the top of the INFJ it should say vision. But then underneath it, in two different categories, it should say, what your lifestyle you want to live, and then how I'm going to get there for each one. You know what I mean? And how that connects to your vision, how that connects to your own happiness, and how you see that furthering your intuitive agenda. Right. I want to move to Barcelona because I think I'm going to be able to understand more people there, or I'll be able to understand myself better there, or I'm going to be able to help people.
Study there.
Yeah, or study there, or whatever. Everything you need to do has to connect to a main way of how you are.
Yeah. And I think that's something I will pick up, and I think it will also help a lot of INFJs to do that. Well, since we're trying, like, I'm really, really thankful that you're like answering so many questions, because for me, like, I learn a lot from this and I enjoy this a lot, and I think most of my viewers are INFJs and they enjoy it as well. But if we look at it also from the other perspective, because I hope that you get something out of this as well, with not only like the discussion and the exchange of thoughts and so on. Is there something where you feel like INFJs have some natural advantage that you want to learn more from, that you feel like it would help your life, that you
I like the fact that INFJs really put an emphasis on just wanting to understand people just because, and that they can actually sever that connectedness and just want to know. Because, all too often I find myself, like, I intuit, but it's not the main focus. So I feel like, even though I understand a lot about people, INFJs have a bigger range and scope of what they can truly understand about people, because that is their focus, and about things, and about just things in general. Whereas that's really not my focus. My focus is really people, and using intuition as a creative function. It's my support, you know, it's my second function. So it's really to help myself, you know, in the moment with people. Whereas, you know, it's like kind of like saying I have to do math for, let's just say I'm back in university. You know, I'm in a math class, but the math professor, that is their job, right? I'm using math in the moment. I use math to do everyday things, but the mathematician is what they're doing 24/7, right? So there's always going to be a little bit of jealousy there because I want to know more, but you know, I
Yeah,
don't always want to ask why though. Like
yeah.
I could why you to death right now, but I know that's you. Like why,
No, but
why?
no, but let's say that you take that that example for me, it's like always, well, why would you want to know more? It's probably because you want to use that as a tool and to better, like, you know, when you use NI now, you use it as you know, use it as a tool in the moment to get you where you want to get, to understand what you want to understand, and so on. And of course, if you had like a better understanding of that, you could also use it as a better tool. And I think for me, vice versa, once I understood, I'm never gonna have an FE as an FE dominant's gonna have. I see it in my mother. I see it with other FE dominant. There's just the strength out I can't have. But
Yeah.
I like accepted that, but I also learned that there's a lot more FE I can do in order to get like my main result. Like I use FE to get my points across, to you know, like in this channel and stuff. Like for me, it was very difficult in the beginning to talk. It was difficult for me to get motivated and get emotion, like emotive and so on. But the more I use it, because I have a purpose in it, the more it becomes a practice and the better I get at it. And I think with ENFJs and with you, it's the same thing. I think if you, as you do it right now, when you do coaching and so on, I think that's the perfect way to naturally just get that, you know, get that up and make it better and, you know, grow it, because it's all just a skill. I think all those things are skills, and we just, if we have more energy, we can, you know, do more hours in that thing, and but it's all doable. And yeah, so I think I'm just thinking about, like, besides the fact that I say it's practice, if there's something I can give as a like a tip or like a tool.
Well,
Ian,
well that and my TI, you know, TI is my weakest function.
yeah,
So
like it's
for
exactly
you,
when you
yeah,
said, like when you said like to have a goal in life and to focus on your missions. That's FE and SE. It's the combination of both, you know, and that's
yeah,
exactly what I really can take. And in a way, it's a lot about learning by the book and not really how I feel at that moment, because I haven't developed it yet. So I just trust your insights in this way. I trust that you know what you're doing, because I can't feel it at that moment. But I know, of course, you're right, because I see you, and you're an ENFJ and you're good at those things. And the NITI thing, let me think. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just more to stay to. But you've already done that. Like, just to take a step back, not to, and yeah, to kind of like cut down on your circles, on your social skills, like all of those things. Like, you, as I see, in my opinion, are very developed anyways. But when I see like an ENFJ who's not developed, my first thing would be narrow down your options. Cut out people who are not good for you. Cut out things that you do just because you can. And with me, I always look at people and I think they're doing so many things and they're not helping them, because they cluster everything around you, and then you don't have any space to think. The less energy and the less feelings and the less like external influences you have, the more free is your space and your mind to actually think and to develop those insights. I think one of the main reasons why it's easier for us to do those things, it's because we don't have that many external influences. It's more like this. If I, like, I was on vacation, I was in Mexico, and there were people from Canada and from everywhere, and I had a blast. I had an awesome time. I probably couldn't have done it for like 3 weeks. I wouldn't have the energy. But during that time, there was no time for me to step down and really think, because all this energy, it was wonderful energy, but it was there, and it didn't, like, there was no space. It's more like I need the space so I can fill it with my thoughts and my insights. So that's the main thing. Just like make it a priority to take time out and to focus on what you want to do, and I think that's the best approach.
How do you as an INFJ, how do you leverage TI?
Can you explain, like, leverage in what way?
Like, because in the way that I see the tertiary slot, I see it's kind of like a fixation. It's like a it's really hard to like grab. Even my SE, right? It's hard to grab. So like when you are using TI, or when you are associating with it, like in a way where you're constructing a framework, or you're using it in your day-to-day life, how do you connect to TI?
Well, what I have learned now is not to rely on it too much, because I was exactly so fixated on it that I didn't want to create FE boundaries in a way. Like I was so eager to be so good at TI, which means that I wanted so much energy to come in where I just like stay there and just absorb everything, but I can still stay in my own mind and have my own thoughts. And I had to learn that there's a limit to it. Like I'm not TI dominant. Like I can't be around thousands of people and still know my values and my thoughts and my understandings. If I'm not careful, I adopt other people's thoughts. Like if I'm around somebody who's very negative, it will rub off on me. So I learned to leverage TI the best by also being aware of its limits and using FE as my first go-to. So now if somebody's acting in my environment in a way that I don't like, then I tell them in an FE way that makes them understand, don't do that again. Otherwise, we're not going to be friends. That means that when that person stays in my life, they're not clustering, or not, is clustering the right word? They're not like putting garbage into my TI. They're not putting garbage into my TI, because I know my TI is not that strong, so I need to protect it. And I protect it by making sure I don't let too much negative stuff, or like stuff that's different than my own thoughts, get in. And at the same time, I make sure that I have more and more people around me who share similar thoughts like that. That's how I leverage my TI. So, and I think for NISE matters as it is with ENFJs, it's more about understanding, okay, you're not an ESTP, which means you're not going to go into a crowd and put on your like force and everything and just convince everybody of this is how we're gonna do it, but that okay, my first go-to is NI, which means I don't have to force my opinion onto others in order to get what I want, because my inside, my NI is so strong that I can understand where they're coming from, and through NI I can get what I want, and then I can use my SE. I don't know if that helps, or
that makes sense. That makes total sense, because I don't want to put force on it.
Yeah. And I think for SE dominance, that's just the easiest way to go. That's what they've done it all their life, and it's worked. Like I think in so many ways we look at other types and think like, oh, that's rude, or why do they do that? Well, we do those things because we've gotten away with it all our life. And I personally also had to learn that I make people uncomfortable by being too NI-ish, by like looking into their mind and kind of like getting into people's privacy without them actually even allowing it to me, just because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's always like this, really, as cliche as it sounds, to really do this know your stack and use it in that direction. And it was very, very hard for me to admit to myself that my TI is not that I first have to do more FE, as in create boundaries, and then use my TI, because it's not strong enough to stand on its own.
It's very true. It's very true.
Can you do me a favor? Is there any more questions, something we could address? Maybe we can make it like the last question or something.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just let us know.
Okay.
Because they are chatting. So.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, it stinks that you can't get the chat up.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like, this is like the first time
it's on the YouTube. Like, if you go to the actual link where people are watching.
I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see where I can share my screen. Right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Go to the actual
video. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, now you see yourself. Okay, so this is. Can you see my YouTube?
Yeah. Go to live control.
Live control room.
Oh, you're there.
Yeah, I can't.
Scroll down. Go to analytics.
Okay, hold on. I'm going like on events, and then I go live control room, right?
Right. Yep. And then you go to analytics.
Here?
Or actually, scroll down.
Or here?
Yeah, scroll down. Right there.
Yeah?
Open a new window.
Oh, that's so much.
Oh.
No, I mean, that's awesome. I see like there are a lot of like comments and everything, and
somebody asked how depression affects each other, each of our types.
Say it again.
Lady Grace asked us about how depression affects each type.
Hold on, it like broke off. Can you repeat that?
Somebody asked us how depression affects our type.
Okay. Should I start off with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. For me, depression, yeah, like that's so common. Everybody can talk about depression. That's kind of funny. Yeah, depression kind of like was with me that I didn't put out any kind of boundaries. I let everything sink in. I wasn't like my own person, as in a way I wasn't showing people what I wanted, who I am, because I just didn't know. I just lost myself. I think that's how a depression for INFJ is a lot of, you just completely lose yourself and you become very codependent, and you just have you only care about the other person. Is the other person feeling good? And if I'm contributing to making that other person feel good. And that's not like a selfless good thing. It's really like selfish in a way of, you give your life more meaning because you feel like you're responsible for the other's happiness or whatever. And you're just like a player in the other person's movie. Like I always say, you have to be the main character in your own movie, the main hero. And I was just like a side character in somebody else's movie. So that's how depression was for me.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I'm echoing on your side.
You what?
I'm echoing.
You outgoing?
Echoing, like echo.
Oh, you're echoing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Is it now better?
Nope.
Okay. Hold on. What about now?
Let's see. Nope.
Okay. I'll just mute it when you talk. I need to like try.
Oh, that works. So yeah, it works fine. So I guess how I deal with, or how depression affects me, or I don't know if it meant each type. I guess our type. Anyway, pretty much I think, I guess I would say that I intuit a lot when I'm depressed. I just think about a ton of things. Like I'm just always thinking. Um, and it's a very emotional experience. When I'm depressed, I'm always listening to music, and I have a certain set list I use to get me out of depression or depressing states. Like I have a music playlist on Spotify I always listen to, and it always makes me feel better. And it's actually weird. The thing about depression is you have to live with what's making you in that state. So you have to be present with where you are. So a lot of people, when they're depressed, they like to ignore what's going on. But I see depression as when you're driving a car and something's wrong, like there's that little warning sign on the dashboard, right? Like I want to know what that is. So I just want to open the hood up and I want to see what's going on. So, I'm very present with my depression. I go through it just like any kind of emotional situation you would, because depression is emotional, even though it's a lack of kind of emotion at times. You know, um, I try to, as best I can, stay present with what's going on, and I whip out. Actually, what I do is, because I know depression to be, people get depressed because they either have a lack of purpose, they're not doing things they love, or they're not contributing to the world, right? It's usually one of the three at its root. So I always kind of just go through all of those. Like, okay, am I feeling purposeful? Yeah. Am I connecting to people? Am I giving back? Not as much. And I kind of go through everything. And so, but I make it important to make sure that I'm doing things that I love. And so but when I'm in the main mode of depression, though, I would say that it should be all about you. Like regardless of what you believe, you should be in a place of, you are the most important thing right now. You're not in a good place. You need to get back into motion. And so whip out ice cream, listen to music, watch movies, do things that are comforting and make you feel better. If you have pets, be around your pets. If you have friends, let your friends know, hey, I'm feeling depressed and I've been in this place for a couple of weeks now. I need to get out of it. So just keep that in mind. If you can help out, you know what I mean? Get people involved. We live with 7 billion other people in the world. So it's really easy to just hop on a chat room like Slack that we have, and just start talking to people. Or, if you have friends, just connect with people. And realize when people are in a depressed state, you have something called catatonic energy, where you have no energy. Like you're a car without gasoline. And so you have to realize that when you are in a depressed state, it's going to be a million times harder to start chugging the train without energy. So you need people to help you, give you that energy, or to help you rediscover that energy and kind of jumpstart the car again, if that makes sense. So that's what I try to do when I'm depressed. I try to jumpstart myself back.
Well, for me, it was the exact same thing for me. Getting out, of course, on the one hand I had to get more emotion, but I had to also let people in and let them help me in a way of just, I wasn't even talking to people about I'm depressed or I wasn't feeling good or all this stuff. I didn't have the courage at that time, but at least I got to be more around people. I let more people in. People I was actually before cutting off because I didn't want their energy at all, because I wasn't sure who I was and what I wanted, and I just let more and more people in just to see that it should be about me. But as you said, we're all in this together, and we're all connected. So if I let people help me and not make it only about me, but about us, and I want to be a part of this and we should all be okay, then it gets a lot easier. So For me, it was the same thing. But is it also when you, like you said, you get very emotional? Like I've seen that in the ENFJ that I know, when he got a lot of depressed, it was those kind of emotions I couldn't really deal with. Like they were so strong. Like I was getting to like my most NI moments in that time, but he was getting to his most FE moments at that time, and I couldn't like go there with him. Like it was too much for me. Like they were so strong, those emotions, and I think that's when you really see what ENFJs are capable of actually enduring, you know, and emotions. And I feel like if I listen to the music, or if I like kind of like go into that, I feel like, why in the world is this person not breaking down? Like how can they handle this? There's a lot more of being able to handle strong emotions than we, for example. And I think those extreme situations show this again. So yeah, that's probably one of those things. Let me check. As I said, so guys, I'm so sorry I didn't see your questions all the time. Now I see them now. There's so many, so thank you a lot. Yeah, and I think we should come to an end, so it's not getting too long. Let me check if there's yeah. It's also just like also comments and stuff. So I think yeah, maybe just like to broaden up, so we don't stop with depression topics. What are you doing on New Year's Eve? Today is December 31st. So.
Oh shoot! Honestly, I'm probably just gonna be working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the motivated ENFJ for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just things need to be accomplished.
Yeah. No, I think that's very good. I probably work tomorrow a little bit, but tonight I'm just gonna go to a friend's house and we're gonna play some games and just like
just chill out
and stuff. So I was telling Daniel in the beginning, but you weren't all online yet, that over here in Germany it's now probably like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And so it's dark and people have started, I don't know why, they started like doing fireworks, so you can hear it in the background. And yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, so I guess that's it for now. Thank you so much for doing this, and I think a lot of
you know what we should do?
What?
I plan on being in Spain next year sometime. We should do another video.
I love Spain. Is really an hour flight away. Like,
is it really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's all like I was in Barcelona last year, and all those islands were like we can go there for work. So it's rather close. Maybe it's an hour and a half. That's max.
Yeah, no, that we need to do a video together, but staying on the same side.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Well, okay, so we'll just talk, and wish you all like a happy new year. You too, Daniel. All the best, and we just keep in touch and see what we're gonna do out of this.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys got something out of this video. And you know, if you want to reach out to me, I think my information is somewhere in the description. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I think somewhere in the description there's my information. You can reach out to me if you have any questions about either ENFJs or typology in general or coaching, and you know where to find Wenzes. So yeah, no, enjoy the New Year's, guys. Hopefully you take some of what we talked about today and you're able to adopt it in your everyday life, and you become everything you wish to be. That's all I got.
Okay, bye guys.